In the midst of a raging blizzard so fierce that the windows groaned and creaked, I saw two young sisters wrapped in newspapers standing right outside my house. Even from inside, despite being bundled up, I could feel the piercing cold that seemed to stab at the skin. Yet there they were, clearly in a desperate state.
Please, even just for Nancy, let her use your bath with this.
In her outstretched, trembling hand was a cold coin. Though it was clear there was more to their story, I took them in, let them use the bath, and treated them to some homemade soup. But I never imagined that this action would change my life. My name is Tom, and I'm 31 years old. After graduating from college, I worked at a publishing company. The reason I'm speaking in the past tense is that I got fired from that publishing company. And now, here I am at a bar with my wife Emma. Since losing my job, I've been feeling down and didn't want to go anywhere, spending most of my days lying in bed.
Why don't we go out for a drink to lift your spirits?
That's what Emma said to me, and that's how we ended up at this bar. Emma is 3 years younger than me, 28. We met at a party, hit it off, and started dating soon after. A year and a half later, we got married. After we tied the knot, Emma became a stay-at-home wife. It's hard to believe it's already been 3 years since our wedding. I married Emma because of her kindness, and it's thanks to that same kindness that I finally managed to step out of the house after so long.
Feeling better after a drink?
Thanks to you, yeah, a little. Staying cooped up at home all the time is definitely bad for my health.
Right? Sitting around sulking at home won't change anything. And let's be real, getting fired wasn't even your fault.
Well, that's true, but it had been snowing heavily for days, covering everything in a blanket of white. I was on my way to an important business meeting. The news had reported severe delays in the train schedule, so I left home much earlier than usual. On my way to the station, I saw someone crouched on the ground, clearly in distress. "Are you okay? Are you feeling sick?" The person couldn't speak, and the face was so pale that there was no way I could walk away. I immediately called for an ambulance, but they said it might take a while to get there because of the snow. I stayed with the person until the ambulance arrived, but in the end, it didn't get there until an hour after I had called. After that, I rushed to the station, but the trains weren't running. I ended up arriving at the meeting location over an hour after it was supposed to start. Standing outside the meeting room was my boss, George.
What were you thinking? How could you be late for such an important meeting?
"I'm so sorry. I saw someone in trouble and stopped to help, and it took longer than I expected."
Do you think that excuse will fly? Because of your delay, the client got upset and left.
"I'm truly sorry. May I call them now to apologize?"
It's too late for that. I'll report this to the company, and you'd better prepare for the consequences.
And that's how I ended up getting fired from the publishing company. I knew there would be repercussions, but I never thought I'd lose my job over it. Feeling utterly defeated, I spent my days curled up in bed, unable to face the world.
But I'm glad you're feeling even a little better now.
I'm really sorry for worrying you.
You've been so dedicated to your work for so long. There's no need to rush into finding something new. We've got enough savings to manage for now.
Thanks. I'll take my time looking.
Yeah, that's the best way to go.
Slightly tipsy from our rare night out, we headed home in good spirits.
Hey, take a look. Is there someone in front of our house?
When Emma said that, I squinted and saw two figures. They looked like children. It was already past midnight. No matter how you looked at it, they were at an age where they should have been fast asleep in bed. To make matters worse, it was snowing heavily. If they stayed out in this weather, they could freeze. Emma and I exchanged glances, nodded almost simultaneously, and hurried over to them. When we got closer, we saw two young girls wrapped in newspaper. They seemed startled by our sudden appearance, and instead of speaking, they just exchanged glances. Their faces showed a hint of fear. "What's going on at this hour? Where are your parents? Did something happen?" I tried to ask gently so as not to scare them. But with a man like me approaching in the dark, their guard was up, and they remained silent. Sensing this wasn't working, I looked at Emma and signaled her to speak to them. She nodded and spoke softly to the girls.
Hey, is something wrong? Can you tell us? We just want to help you.
The girls exchanged glances again, and then the taller one hesitantly replied.
Just let her use your bath, even for 10 cents.
At first, I had only noticed the newspapers they were wrapped in, but looking closer, I realized both girls were wearing extremely thin clothing, completely unsuitable for the freezing winter. They were trembling uncontrollably. Emma and I immediately understood there was more to their story. If they stayed like this, they would definitely catch a cold. Worse yet, there was a chance they could develop pneumonia.
Okay, this is our house. You can use the bath. For now, come inside.
Emma's kindness seemed to resonate directly with the girls. Without hesitation, they followed her into the house. Relieved, I went inside as well. I quickly put hot water in the bathtub, and Emma joined the girls to help them get cleaned up. The girls might be hungry, I thought. With that in mind, I decided to make chicken soup. I hadn't done much cooking since getting married, but back when I lived alone, I used to cook for myself regularly. Making soup was no problem. As the soup simmered, Emma and the girls emerged from the bathroom. They had bonded during bath time, chatting and laughing together as they came out. The girls turned out to be sisters named Ashley and Nancy. They were 12 and 11 years old. As we talked while the soup simmered, they seemed to let their guard down around me. When I asked, "Are you hungry?" they nodded almost simultaneously. Apparently, they hadn't been able to eat dinner. That wouldn't do, so I served them the soup. They ate it eagerly, clearly enjoying it. Seeing them like that, Emma and I couldn't help but smile.
Why were you two outside so late at night? Did something happen?
After finishing their soup and looking satisfied, Emma gently asked them a question. The two girls silently looked at each other for a while before they began to speak.
Our house caught fire, so we ran away. We were hungry and tried to cook something. Yeah, Dad told us not to use the stove, but we couldn't wait anymore. We tried cooking for the first time, but we used too much oil. It was so scary. The frying pan caught fire, and we didn't know how to put it out. Then everything around it started burning, so we just ran out of the house.
As I watched them desperately try to explain, taking turns speaking, my chest tightened. How could anyone blame them for trying to use the stove? Were your mom and dad not home?
Our mom isn't around anymore. It's just Dad. Yeah, Dad always works at night.
Why did I ask something like that at a time like this? I regretted it immediately, but Emma quickly stepped in with another question to cover for me.
I see. What does your dad do?
He's a doctor. Yeah, he works really hard for us all the time.
That's amazing. Thinking like that at your age is really something. I don't think I could have done that back then.
I completely agreed with Emma. Honestly, at that age, all I remember doing was playing around. I had never once thought about my parents or what they were going through. That aside, I started to feel worried. If their father had returned home and suddenly found out the house had burned down, he might go into a panic, not knowing if his daughters were safe. Emma seemed to be thinking the same thing.
Hey, maybe we should call the police.
Yeah, we need to find out what happened with the fire. And their dad must be really worried about that. I called the police right away and explained the situation briefly. They sent an officer to our house quickly. Even though they had tried to contact Ashley and Nancy's father, they hadn't been able to reach him yet. Unfortunately, their house was completely destroyed in the fire. Thankfully, because there was some distance between their home and the neighbors, the fire didn't spread. Even though they wouldn't be held liable for any damages if the fire had spread, if the affected house wasn't covered by fire insurance, the compensation provided by the government wouldn't be nearly enough to cover the loss. The emotional burden in such a case would undoubtedly be significant. It was a relief that they didn't have to bear that burden. Still, not being able to reach Ashley and Nancy's father made me increasingly worried.
Technically, the girls should be placed in a shelter, but after contacting the nearby facilities, they're all full.
Is that so? Since the police officer arrived, the girls had been clinging tightly to Emma and me. I had already noticed they were shy, so this was understandable. If a stranger, especially a man, suddenly approached them, it's only natural for girls this age to feel intimidated. Their reaction when I first spoke to them outside our house made that clear. The officer tried to lead them to the police station and gently pull them away from us.
No, I don't want to leave. I want to stay here. I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm tired and sleepy.
The girls cried and screamed loudly.
Normally, we'd take them to the station, but seeing them crying like this makes it really tough.
The police officer, seeing the two girls crying loudly, seemed to be questioning whether forcing them to go was the right thing to do.
These girls ran from a house fire and must have been terrified.
Besides, it's already late, and they're way past the time they should be in bed. So, I was wondering, how about letting them stay here for just one night? They seemed to trust us. The officer hesitated for a moment before making a decision.
That sounds like the best option. I'll let their father know this address when we manage to contact him.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
We moved to the bedroom. Emma, Ashley, and Nancy shared the bed while I slept on the couch. Ashley and Nancy, still tearful and unable to calm down, clung tightly to Emma for comfort. Emma, in turn, seemed genuinely happy as she chatted with the two girls. From my spot on the couch, I listened to their voices, feeling a mix of happiness and sadness. As I wrestled with those ambivalent emotions, their voices gradually faded, and before I knew it, Ashley and Nancy had fallen asleep. Once I confirmed they were asleep, I soon drifted off into my own dreams. Around 10 a.m. the next day, we received a call saying their father had arrived at the police station. Since the officer had been given our address the day before, I had assumed their father would come directly here. However, he was apparently too physically and emotionally drained to make the trip, and asked if we could come to the station instead. That was understandable. Even though his daughters were safe, losing his home to a fire would have been a devastating blow. Unless someone was unnaturally optimistic or entirely despondent, anyone would be in shock after such an event. Emma and I woke Ashley and Nancy, saying, "You're going to see your dad." Their faces immediately lit up with joy.
Where's Dad? I want to go now. Nancy, let's hurry and get ready. Yeah!
Emma watched them with a warm smile as the girls beamed with excitement. All right, all ready? Let's go. When we arrived at the police station and spotted their father, Scott, Ashley, and Nancy ran straight to him and threw their arms around him.
We're so sorry. You told us never to use the stove, but we did. We're really sorry. Dad, please forgive us. We never thought it would cause a fire.
Clinging to his waist, they kept repeating, "We're sorry." Scott calmed them down and quietly said,
It's okay. You don't need to apologize anymore. What matters most is that both of you escaped unharmed.
Still, Scott's expression was visibly somber. Of course, anyone would feel down after losing their home to a fire. But I had a feeling there was something more weighing on him. Noticing us, Scott came over and thanked us.
Thank you so much for everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay your kindness. The officer explained the situation to me, and am truly grateful.
As he tried to apologize again, Emma and I reassured him, saying, "It's really okay," and managed to stop him. So Scott, what's your plan from here? Do you have any ideas for what to do next? Scott opened up about what he had been considering.
Honestly, I'm still unsure. The house is gone, so relocating is a given, but
He hesitated for a moment before continuing.
I thought about leaving the girls with my parents, but my father is elderly, and my mother has passed away. Throwing this on my father suddenly wouldn't work, and am not sure he could properly care for Ashley and Nancy. In that case, it'd have to find a new place near the old house. But since I have the girls, moving into an apartment isn't ideal. They sometimes get really loud when playing, and I can already foresee noise complaints. So I need a soundproofed place, but finding one that's immediately available is unlikely. On top of that, my bank cards were destroyed in the fire, so dealing with finances has been a nightmare. Honestly, I feel completely stuck.
It was clear he had been overthinking everything. He poured it all out in one breath, then let out a deep sigh.
Well, I don't mean to overstep, but could I make a suggestion?
Of course, go ahead.
If you'd like, we could take care of Nancy and Ashley at our house for a while. We both have the time to help right now.
Hearing Emma's offer, Scott fell silent, his expression clearly showing he was unsure what to do. He seemed to be processing her suggestion from every possible angle at lightning speed.
That's a very generous offer, but I feel like I need to handle this myself. Words can't express how grateful I am for what you've done for Ashley and Nancy. However, I still hesitate to entrust them to someone we don't know very well yet.
That's completely understandable. I'm sorry if my suggestion came off as strange.
No, I should be the one apologizing for turning down such a kind offer.
Please don't worry about it. But if you ever need help, don't hesitate to ask.
With that, Emma walked over to Ashley and Nancy and started chatting with them.
Ashley and Nancy seem really fond of Emma.
Scott watched the three of them silently for a while before he spoke. Emma has this knack for being liked by kids. Most children end up just like that around her.
That makes sense. Actually, Ashley and Nancy came up to me earlier and whispered in my ear that they'd love to play with Emma again. They said it over and over.
Scott closed his eyes, appearing deep in thought. When he opened them again, he spoke as if he had made up his mind.
I'm really sorry to ask this, but would you be willing to take care of Ashley and Nancy? You and your wife don't seem like bad people. I've never seen those two warm up to strangers like this before. I would be incredibly grateful.
And so, our life with Ashley and Nancy began. Seeing how happy Emma was spending time with the girls, I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. The truth was, Emma and I hadn't been able to have children. The doctor at the fertility clinic had told us there was still a chance. However, as time went on without any success, the emotional toll became too much for both of us. As a result, the once harmonious relationship between Emma and me began to crack, to the point where we thought we might end up divorcing. Realizing we couldn't continue like that, we decided to give up on having children. Instead of having children, we decided to shift our focus to opening a business together, treating it as if it were our child and nurturing its growth. Emma, who was a homemaker, explored various ideas, but nothing felt quite right, so the plan never materialized. With that history, Emma treated Ashley and Nancy like they were her own, pouring her love and energy into them.
By the way, do you two have anything you're struggling with? Schoolwork, friends, anything like that?
That's when we learned they both wanted to follow in Scott's footsteps and become doctors. As a step toward that goal, they were preparing for middle school, but were struggling to keep up with the high academic standards. This was my chance to step in. In fact, I graduated from a prestigious university, having tested various study methods to achieve success. Since I'm currently unemployed and have plenty of free time. During this time, if they learn effective study methods, they can apply them to high school and college exams as well. It turned out their struggles weren't due to a lack of ability, but simply because they didn't know the right methods. Though I didn't focus much on the actual content, their grades started improving dramatically in no time. This lifestyle continued for about a month until Ashley and Nancy's family home was ready, and it was time for them to leave our house. By that time, we had all completely bonded, and I think both Emma and I felt like we were caring for our own children. That's why saying goodbye was so hard. I somehow managed to hold back my tears, but Emma broke down as the girls left, tears streaming down her face.
Don't cry like that. It's not like we'll never see each other again. Yeah, we'll never forget our time here, no matter what.
Hearing those words pushed me to the brink of tears, and Emma's sobbing only intensified. After the girls left, the house felt completely empty. Their presence had become such a natural part of our home. After spending a few days feeling like I was floating aimlessly, unable to settle down, I realized it was time to start looking for a job. Teaching Ashley and Nancy had given me confidence in my ability to teach. More importantly, I found that I genuinely enjoyed it. After discussing it with Emma, I decided to start a new career as a tutor. Now I'm 46, and Emma is 43. Time truly flies. It had already been 15 years since Ashley and Nancy stayed with us and eventually moved out. Right after Ashley and Nancy left, they sent us a lot of letters. We wrote many replies in return. But it seems that physical distance inevitably mirrors emotional distance. And as the years went by, the number of letters gradually decreased. Now, we receive them about once a year. It's just the way things are. It's not their fault. Time and distance are insurmountable forces that simply exist. If anything, I think it's incredible that they still send us letters even now. As for Emma, she's probably kept every single letter they've ever sent. Emma is always delighted to read about how well the girls are doing in their letters, saying, "I'm so happy to see they're thriving." However, I've been worried about Emma recently. Her health hasn't been great. Her immune system seemed to be weakened. She would catch a cold at the slightest chill and often complained about feeling unwell, which had me very worried. I suggested to Emma that she go for a full medical checkup, and although she was reluctant, she eventually agreed. But just as we were preparing for it, something unexpected happened. Suddenly, Emma collapsed. She didn't respond when I called out to her, and I immediately dialed for an ambulance. When we arrived at the hospital, the first doctor who rushed over began assessing Emma's condition.
What kind of symptoms are we dealing with here?
The doctor's anxious demeanor immediately made me feel uneasy. If the doctor couldn't figure it out quickly, I feared it might be something serious. A heavy sense of dread welled up inside me, and my heart started pounding loudly. Or maybe it was just the stress amplifying the sound of my heartbeat.
Excuse me, may I take a look?
I turned toward the voice and found myself involuntarily widening my eyes in shock. Is this a dream? Am I on the verge of death, watching my life flash before my eyes? But it wasn't a dream. It was real.
It's been a long time. I never thought we'd meet again like this. But first, let's focus on this.
Standing there was Ashley, all grown up. The same Ashley I had lived with for a month and taught years ago.
She had fertility treatment, right?
We had talked about it in front of the girls, thinking they wouldn't understand. But clearly, Emma and I had underestimated them. I nodded repeatedly.
There was also a distinctive habit, wasn't there?
A distinctive habit? What does she mean? I couldn't think of anything, and my mind was filled with questions.
Yes, that's an important point.
I turned toward the voice and saw Nancy, now fully grown. She still had traces of the features she had as a grade schooler. Without paying any attention to that, Ashley and Nancy thoroughly examined Emma.
This requires emergency surgery.
Ashley said, looking directly into my eyes. The surgery for Emma went smoothly, and she was admitted to the hospital, but was expected to be discharged in about 2 weeks. I sat in a chair next to her bed, watching her as she rested. Overwhelmed with relief, tears started streaming down my face. Emma and I are still in our 40s. It's far too early for either of us to leave this world. As I managed to stop my tears and wipe them away with a tissue, the door to the hospital room opened.
It's been a long time. I'm so glad I could save someone who's been such a big part of my life.
Ashley had grown into a mature woman with long hair, though traces of her grade school days were still visible.
I'm really glad too.
Nancy, unlike Ashley, had short hair that perfectly suited her sharp and intelligent demeanor. You both became doctors. Congratulations. You made your dreams come true. That's incredible.
We owe it all to you, Tom. It was because you taught us those study methods. Our grades started improving right after that, didn't they, Nancy? Absolutely. Without that 1 month, I doubt we would have ever become doctors.
No, I just gave you a little guidance. You achieved your dreams through your own hard work. Ashley and Nancy exchanged a glance and chuckled.
You haven't changed at all. Always so humble. Exactly.
Anyway, thank you so much for saving Emma. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I express my heartfelt gratitude to both of them. Ashley and Nancy responded with playful remarks like, "It's no big deal." And "You're so formal, just like always," reminiscent of their childhood selves. The success of Ashley and Nancy's treatment boosted their reputation significantly, and by extension, it brought attention to me as their former tutor. As the mentor of 2 accomplished doctors, I started gaining recognition, and soon, many promising students, including the children of doctors, began attending my tutoring center. The buzz even reached the publishing industry, leading to an offer for me to write a book about my study methods. To my surprise, the offer came from the same publishing company that had fired me years ago. I never imagined that paths I thought had diverged forever would cross again. The book became a moderate success, and the CEO of the publishing company invited me to dinner. During the conversation, I happened to share my story about George, my former boss, and the unfair treatment I had received. It wasn't intentional, just something that came up naturally in the discussion. However, it turned out there was more to the story of my dismissal. On the day of the critical meeting, when I was late due to helping someone during the snowstorm, George himself had also been late. By the time I arrived, the client was already furious and had canceled the deal. In other words, despite George also being late, he shifted all the blame onto me, who arrived even later to save himself. This fact came to light after the CEO heard about George from me during our dinner and decided to contact the client from that meeting. Remarkably, even after more than 15 years, the client's representative still remembered the incident clearly. As a result, George, who had since risen to the position of department head, was demoted without question. He now spends his days idly in a remote office. As for Emma, her recovery after surgery was smooth, and she no longer struggles with health issues. Ashley and Nancy sometimes come to visit, and we spend more time talking together like family. It's all thanks to them being assigned to work in this area. My tutoring business is thriving, and my relationship with Emma is better than ever. I'm living such a happy life that wishing for anything more almost feels like tempting fate.